All right, let's talk about Shutter Island, specifically that ending, right? It's one of those movie endings that people just cannot stop debating. And in this explainer, we're going to tear it all apart. But here's the twist. We're not just going to look at the plot. We're going to use a really fascinating psychological tool to see what's actually going on inside our main character's head.
Yeah, that line. Chilling, isn't it? It's the last thing we hear, and it just hangs in the air. For years, everyone's been asking, did he snap again? Or did he know exactly what he was doing? Well, by the time we're done here, you're going to have a completely new way of looking at this question, and maybe even an answer.
Okay, so first, the Shutter Island riddle. We've got a U.S. Marshal, a remote asylum, and a pretty fractured reality. Let's just do a quick recap. The year is 1954. A U.S. Marshal named Teddy Daniels shows up on this creepy, storm-swept island, home to a hospital for the criminally insane. His job? To figure out how a patient just vanished into thin air.
But as anyone who's seen the movie knows, the deeper he digs, the more everything starts to unravel. The lines between what's real and what's not just completely blur. And you start to realize this isn't your average detective story. Nope. This is a deep, deep dive into a mind that's been so broken by trauma that it had to literally split itself into pieces just to keep going. So to really get a handle on Teddy's bizarre behavior, we need a new way of looking at him. Let's try on a new lens, thinking of the mind as a family. We're going to introduce a concept called internal family systems, or IFS for short. And trust me, it's a pretty mind-blowing way to think about how we all tick. So what is IFS? Well, the main idea is that your mind isn't just one single thing. It's more like a collection of different parts, almost like sub-personalities. Think of it like a family living inside your head. And we all have this. You know that feeling when one part of you is like, I should totally go to the gym, and another part is screaming, no way, let's stay on the couch and watch TV. According to IFS, those aren't just random thoughts. Those are two different parts of you, and they both have their own unique feelings and goals. All right, let's talk about the parts within us. We're going to meet the managers, the firefighters, and the exiles. See, IFS says that these parts usually fall into one of three main jobs, and all of these jobs are designed to protect us, especially when we've been hurt. So let's get to know the team. First up, you've got the managers. These are your proactive protectors. They're like the super responsible planners of your inner world. Their whole job is to manage your life, to control everything around you so that you never have to feel old emotional pain. Ever been a perfectionist or a people pleaser or just worried about everything all the time? Yep, that's a manager at work. But, sometimes the pain gets through anyway, no matter how hard the managers try. And when that happens, the firefighters get called in. These guys are the reactive protectors. Their one and only mission is to put out that emotional fire, like right now. And they will use any tool they can grab, whether it's a sudden burst of anger, completely zoning out, or other numbing behaviors. They don't care about the consequences. They just want the pain to stop. So what are they so desperately trying to protect? They're protecting the exiles. The exiles are the youngest, most vulnerable parts of who we are. They're like the inner children, holding on to all the pain, the shame, and the fear from things that happened to us long ago. And because that pain is so overwhelming, the managers and firefighters team up to lock these exiles away, to exile them so their pain doesn't completely take over. So here's a quick cheat sheet for how this all works. You've got the managers, working overtime to control and plan, basically to keep a lid on things. Then you've got the firefighters, who react and distract the second that lid starts to rattle. And both of them are in service of one goal, keeping the trauma held by the exiles locked down tight. And as you can imagine, this can lead to a huge internal tug of war, right? Your manager part wants total, rigid control. It's always thinking about the future, trying to prevent disaster. But your firefighter part? It could not care less about the future. It just wants relief now. It's that classic battle inside so many of us, the careful planner versus the impulsive escape artist. Okay, so now we have the blueprint for this internal family system. Let's go back to the movie and decode Andrew's system. Because when you start to apply this framework to him, man, everything just clicks into place. The whole mystery just dissolves. So let's do it. All right, here is the absolute key to understanding the whole film. The character we think is the hero, U.S. Marshal Teddy Daniels, he's not real. He's a part. He is the ultimate manager. An incredibly detailed, powerful manager part that has built an entire fantasy world, this whole detective story, for one reason and one reason only: to keep the awful truth about who Andrew Laeddis really is from ever seeing the light of day. But even a manager that powerful can't keep control 24/7. Every time Andrew gets near water or fire or someone says something that gets a little too close to the truth, boom, he's triggered. And that's when his firefighters leap into action. The crippling migraines, the hallucinations of his wife, the shocking bursts of violence, those aren't just random symptoms of insanity. Those are his firefighter parts, desperately trying to extinguish the flames of his trauma before it consumes him.
And what's the fire they're trying to put out? What's the trauma they're all trying to contain? It's his exiles. For Andrew, the exiles are the parts of him that hold the most unspeakable memories imaginable. The memory of his wife drowning their children, and the memory of him killing her in response. This is the core wound. This is the absolute agony that his entire inner world has built a fortress to keep out.
So this all leads us to that final choice, and a potential glimmer of something else. To really understand what happens in that last scene, we have to talk about the most important piece of the IFS puzzle. And that piece is called the self. Now, the self is different. It's not a part. According to IFS, the self is the core of who you are. It's your true essence. It can't be damaged by trauma. It's always there, and it's naturally calm, compassionate, and wise. It's meant to be the true leader of your whole internal family. And the self has these incredible qualities, often called the 8 C's, things like compassion, curiosity, calm, courage, clarity. When we're connected to this part of ourselves, we have access to all of this. And really, the whole point of working with IFS is to help this self listen to and heal all the other parts so the managers and firefighters don't have to work so hard anymore. Okay, let's go back to that final scene. For almost the entire movie, Andrew is what IFS calls blended with his Teddy part. He doesn't think he has a part called Teddy, he thinks he is Teddy. But after that big reveal in the lighthouse, the fantasy just shatters. And when he's sitting on those steps at the end, he's not Teddy anymore, he's Andrew. And for one fleeting, awful moment, his core self is in the driver's seat, and it sees everything with perfect, horrible clarity.
So let's look at that line one more time. Through this IFS lens, he's not relapsing, he's not confused. This is his self speaking. It has clarity, it has courage, and it's looking at the 2 options. Option 1, live as a monster, meaning live with the unbearable, monstrous truth carried by his exiles. Option 2, die as a good man, meaning retreat into the fiction of Teddy Daniels and let them take his mind away. It's a conscious choice.
And that leads us to the big, heartbreaking question. Is his choice to pretend his Teddy again, knowing it means getting a lobotomy, actually an act of compassion from his self? Is his self deciding that the pain his exiles carry is just too much to bear, and that the kindest thing it can do for his entire internal system is to choose oblivion? A final tragic decision to let a fictional hero die rather than force a broken man to live with a monstrous reality. You know, this way of looking at Shutter Island, it really gives us a new way to look at ourselves too. It's an invitation to get curious about all those different voices inside our own heads. So the question I'll leave you with is, who's running the show for you? Which parts are leading your story? Is it a manager trying to control everything? A firefighter putting out fires? Or do you feel connected to that calm, courageous self at your core? It's definitely something to think about.